I'm Douglas Gordon, the CEO of Marley One. Marley One is a licensed brand that we have in partnership with the Marley family. So that spans across all different types of mushrooms. So we work in terms of, for us, we do functional mushrooms with Marley One. We're going to be launching Marley One Drop, which will be psilocybin mushrooms. And we'll also be doing Marley One wellness retreats, which are holistic wellness retreats that allow people to use psychedelics to help them to develop and grow and work through some of the traumas and unlock some of the strength that they have within themselves that they've held back from. So there are three types of mushrooms. Basically, you have culinary mushrooms, you have functional mushrooms, and then you have psilocybin or psychedelic mushrooms. So essentially, we all know what culinary mushrooms are: portobello, shiitake, etc. You have them in restaurants, you can buy them in your supermarket. Functional mushrooms have different health benefits based on the species of mushrooms. So for example, you have lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga. These all have different health benefits. And so they come under this classification of functional mushrooms. And functional mushrooms or therapeutic mushrooms can be sold anywhere in the world. There's no restrictions on them like you would have with psychedelic mushrooms. And so these offer people to have natural healing. We actually share 50% of our DNA with mushrooms, with fungi, as human beings. And so it's important to understand how these networks work. And then what they do is they really help us to unlock various parts of how our bodies even work together to achieve some of these different health benefits based on the different species of mushrooms. And then the psilocybin or psychedelic mushrooms, as people call them, actually, that's an accurate depiction. Those are more oriented toward our mental space. So they help us with our brain in terms of the body to really rework and reinterpret traumas. And the exact phenomena of that, we're still doing a lot of research to understand how it works. But the fact that it works is really beyond debate at this point, because you're really seeing people, and I mean, psychedelics and psilocybin specifically have been used for hundreds of years by indigenous communities around the world. And so what you have now is a situation where modern medicine is now understanding how these compounds work and how they help the brain to basically rewire itself around traumas. And that's really where they're seeing tremendous benefit from using psychedelics to help people to navigate some of these persistent challenges that they've had that, to this day, pharmaceutical medicines are not able to solve. 30% of pharmaceuticals do not work in supporting people with some of the mental health challenges that they're navigating. And that's a startling statistic, especially when you consider it doesn't include the people who take some of these pharmaceuticals and almost end up zombie-like. And that's the trade-off that they have to navigate, is to either take medicine that can render them, like I said, almost comatose, like such a shell of who they are, or they run the risk, if they don't take that medicine, of having psychotic episodes or mental breaks. And these are things that are just in this day and age and what people are navigating. The fact that we have a natural solution that promises so much healing for folks is really quite important for us to take on. So Marley One, we right now we offer 5 tinctures. So tinctures are like these little bottles which are liquid. We have 5 different types: 1 flow, 1 mind, 1 harmony, 1 body, 1 rest. And those offer different health benefits. So for example, 1 rest, which has reishi and the other active ingredient in there is called GABA, that helps to reduce anxiety. And people use that and have seen great results in helping them to be less stressed and less anxious, but also to get better night's rest, because when the mind is now a little bit more settled, they're able to sleep better, so some people use it for, instead of suffering with insomnia, they find 1 rest helps them in that respect. And so each one has a different health benefit. So 1 mind, for example, is very good with cognitive function. So that has lion's mane in it and ginkgo biloba. And that helps us in terms of focus. It helps us in terms of clarity. Some people say it helps them to unlock greater creativity within themselves. But basically it's like a recharge for the brain through the course of the day. Me personally, I would take one mind like in the afternoon. I get up very early in the morning, and for me, it basically gives me a second day's worth of productivity, just because my mind gets refocused in the afternoon, and I have that additional sort of mental firepower, if you want to call it that. So each one has a different health benefit. And then in terms of its availability, we sell both in stores as well as online. So marleyone.com is where we sell it online. And then we have other partners that we're just bringing on stream in terms of other e-commerce partners as well as different retail environments. But we've just launched and it's been very well received. We've got a UK distributor. We have about 22 states we have distribution in right now. In the United States, we have Canada coming on stream, Mexico, we'll be in Jamaica later this month. So first, it's been very encouraging in terms of the feedback and the uptake with it. But we really see this as something that we can go global with, and we've already started in that vein. But the functional mushroom market was a $26 billion industry in 2020. So it has tremendous upside, and we feel with the brand that we have, and not just the brand, but the product that we have, like how we've formulated it, how we've sort of put the different actives together to really amplify the efficacy of that sole functional ingredient, we really think is going to go a long way to help people to get better outcomes from using these products. And that's ultimately what's very important to us. And so we're going to add other form factors. So we'll launch with capsules and gummies in the next 90 days. And then we have about 3 or 4 other form factors that we'll bring on stream as we expand in the marketplace. And we get feedback from our customers in terms of what's working, what they like, where we need to iterate the product a little bit more. But so far it's very exciting just to sort of bring it to market and see the response from the distribution channels. And now we're starting to talk directly to some of the retail outlets, branded retail outlets, which we think will be very powerful for the brand as well. Psilocybin in and of itself is not dangerous. Like everything else, you have to, and this is why the screening process is so important. We have to understand where people are, what medications they are. Are they predisposed for a psychotic break? Do they have a history of bipolar in their family? These are the small percentage situations where someone can have, a very unfavorable response to psilocybin. And so by screening that out, from that perspective, it's not dangerous. If you just go into psilocybin and you haven't screened some of those things out, then it's not really advised for you. You have such a small percentage of negative incidents that, I guess on the balance of the data, you could say, yes, it's safe. But the reality of it is, we strive to be responsible, and we strive to be, really treat our clients with great care. We want people to be able to come to us in their most vulnerable state. And so to be able to do that and hold them in that space and serve them, we have to do all this work in advance to make sure that they're ready and that they're a good fit for what we're offering. So our psilocybin comes from Jamaica, absolutely. It's a Schedule I substance globally, so you can't ship it willy-nilly. You do have special situations, like since it's legal in Jamaica, you have some entities here who have basically what's called a DEA export license. So they've been cleared by the Drug Enforcement Administration in the US, and they can ship psilocybin to the US for research purposes. So we don't grow our own psilocybin. We partner with a cultivator here who specializes in psilocybin. We work with a company that is both based in Jamaica and Canada. And they grow in a GMP certified facility. They have a DEA export license. They grow with really high protocols as far as the SOPs and the standards within which they maintain their facility. Their cultivator, she's I think 15 years in mycology, Jamaican woman, which we're very proud of. So for us, we know that their product is top shelf. It's as good as anything that's cultivated here in Jamaica. And that's important for us in our retreats to make sure that we know we're giving people the very best quality psilocybin that's being produced at the same level retreat after retreat after retreat, because then we can really, sort of dial into what are the quantities, what are the dosing guidelines that we need to utilize for different clients over time. In the tincture format, you can literally just drop it under your tongue as a sublingual. You hold it there for 15, 20 seconds and then you swallow. Or you can actually drop it into your coffee or drop it into another beverage that you're having, whether it's a cocktail, a non-alcoholic cocktail, of course, we recommend. It's a health and wellness supplement, or juice or what have you. So it's really a function of what serves you best. I mean, we've gone through and flavored each one of our tinctures so that they have a Caribbean sort of taste profile to them. And I have to credit Rita Marley for that. She was very, that was her idea. And I think it did a great job of bridging the gap, making sure that we really had the Caribbean essence of what we were doing all the way through our products. So each one has a slightly different flavor that we've used that is representative of the Caribbean. So, unlike one of the reservations you have with mushroom products, particularly functional mushroom products, is the taste. And so that's one of the things that we don't have as a barrier, so to speak, is that they taste very good. So our retreats are, 5-day, 4-night, immersive, holistic experiences. We have embraced the spirituality, the spiritual journey, if you will, that a lot of the indigenous communities have. Those are the people who have used psychedelics for so long. We have now this new wave, if you want to call it that, where people are now accepting the value of psychedelic experiences in terms of helping the human condition. And, we really look back to not just the historical, but because it still happens to present day, but really that indigenous usage and that sort of spiritual base of how these compounds help people. And so our retreats are a measure of that. Our retreats are a measure of, good SOPs and good business practices as far as, ensuring people's health and safety. We take very seriously the process of screening our guests to make sure that they are fit for a psychedelic journey and a wellness retreat. Because when you bring people together in a group, you want to also manage those dynamics in such a way that it increases the probability of everybody having a positive experience. So we keep our groups fairly intimate, and then we assemble a range of activities that help to bring them to a place of real calm and acceptance and openness to be able to, embrace that journey once they go on it. A lot of times people ask about, what's a bad trip? And, a bad trip is essentially just a person's refusal to give in, to allow themselves to go through the process. And that's what that's really doing, is allowing the medicine to work its way through your brain, find those pockets of trauma that we have in many ways glossed over or found, our own coping mechanisms for them. But invariably, those coping mechanisms tend to be like to push it down or push it to the side and build bridges around insulating ourselves from those things really affecting us. And what the medicine does is it goes straight to it. It goes to it and it allows us to reinterpret that trauma. So whereas in the past you have a traumatic incident and we build all these barriers around it within our brain to protect ourselves, in that case, the trauma still holds all the power over you. Because in one fell swoop, if that ignites, you're pulled off course from what your normal day or thinking activities are. And what psychedelics really allow you to do is to see that trauma for what it is, but now you can sort of put it in its perspective. You allow yourself to see it, and now the power inverts from the trauma scaring you to you seeing it, knowing it, and it being over there. And it's a simplistic explanation, but the truth is that's really where people get so much peace and so much clarity from going through a psychedelic experience, because they're able to, once they're comfortable, once they really allow themselves to go through the process, what they find on the other side of it is real clarity, and in many cases, real closure, because they can move on from that. And that's really why I feel, particularly in this day and age that we live in, and particularly against the backdrop of such poor options vis-a-vis, looking for mental health solutions and care, that what we do in the psychedelic space and what we offer from in a retreat setting is really, it's what drives me to do this business, quite frankly. That's my real core interest in terms of, helping people to unlock the version of themselves that they have inside, that for many years they've hidden away, or they've shied away from, or they haven't known how to access. And what we do in being able to work with these different professionals and bring this expertise to the table and host them here in Jamaica in particular, it's a real privilege. It's a real privilege to be able to be part of a journey that facilitates people unlocking that within themselves. And we have seen, I've been doing this for a couple of years now in different arenas. And what I've seen and been exposed to by way of seeing people come through these journeys, it's like food for your soul. I know that probably sounds really corny, but it really is what motivates and drives me to keep doing this, irrespective of whatever the challenges might be. Because if more of us could just be comfortable with being who we are and allowing that version of ourselves to be the one that we shine through and we step into every day, I think a lot of the challenges in this world would actually dissipate pretty quickly, because everybody would be a lot more authentic, everybody would be a lot happier, everybody would feel a much greater sense of their own self, as opposed to wondering what other people think and what's town going to say and all these other considerations which consume us today and unfortunately derail most of us from living the lives that I think serve ourselves and serve society in a more accretive type of way. So we screen our guests before they come to make sure that they're suitable. They're in the right place in terms of being able to receive what we're offering, and they're also not. They're in a place where the group itself has a fairly uniform in the sense of the spread of where each of these people are coming from. Because some people who come, with a PTSD sort of disposition may not be the person to be in a group with somebody who feels like, they're highly functional, they're trying to break through to that next level and something's holding them back. Those are not necessarily, in many instances, the group that these two people need to be in together, because they're looking for different things. So our screening process is really to identify whether there are any preconditions that would preempt or preclude, I should say, someone from being a participant to our retreats. Those are reviewed through a questionnaire that we have, and then reviewed by a medical professional, a doctor, who then speaks to each guest to get a real sense of where they're coming from, where they are, and to make sure there's a good fit there. Then we walk them through they get to meet some of our key retreat personnel on our team, if you will, before they come, so they get a degree of comfort. And then once they come to Jamaica, we greet them with a dinner, and then every day we have different meditative and mindful exercises that they can participate in, things like breath work, energy work. We also have, we try to give a menu that is very healthy for them. Use a lot of vegetables, a lot of, some of the food from the earth here in Jamaica that's so rich and abundant. And then we, give them things to keep them, open, massages, and just get that mind relaxed so they can really absorb the experience that they're gonna go through. And then for their journeys, we do 2 psychedelic journeys with our guests over different days. And the quantum of psilocybin that they consume is determined by our retreat leader based on his or her interaction with the guests and understanding what they're trying to accomplish, where they are in their process, what sort of experience that they've had, and then we tailor it specific to them. In between all of that, we try to make sure that they get a real good sense of Jamaica. We take them on excursion, typically something that takes them into nature or close to water, and it's just a very relaxing but intentional and carefully sculpted and curated experience that we put together for our retreat guests to really help them to get the maximum benefit out of coming to the retreat. We have 5 retreats scheduled so far through the end of the year. We're going to have retreats every month, and then we also offer what we call curated retreats. So again, our retreats will have themes. We have our sort of, regular retreat, and then we're going to have retreats that are sort of themed out for like divine feminine and things that are, a men's retreat. So again, what you want to accomplish is people who can come to these things with a great degree of comfort. So, men who are trying to find their way in this world, of which there are many, because this world has shifted in so many different confusing ways, they can come together now in an intimate group and feel comfortable that they can share these experiences. They can share this commonality of, this is something I want to address, or this is something I want to move through in my life. So that might be for them more comfortable than a mixed group that's more generic, if you will. Similarly, one of the retreats that we're working towards, which we'll probably have in October, will be our Divine Feminine retreat. So again, in that retreat, you have, it's geared toward women. Why? Because, there's some women whose trauma is because of men, right? They've been, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's career, whether it's just, it's being in a sort of male-dominated world or work environment or professional space for a long time, or whether it's, being a highly proficient and successful mother. And yet, does that woman feel complete? There's all these different things that we have to understand, that a woman might be more comfortable to be around other women so she can be clear about the things that are holding her back. And so that's why we have different themed retreats that we'll put together. But in addition to that, you have folks who might say, it's me and 6 of my friends and we want to do this together, or my family, it's a family retreat. We have, extensive trauma in our family, and we feel like a unit that's just our family is what we want. And you also have people that will say, look, I definitely want this, I definitely want to do this, but I'm not interested in doing with anybody else. I just want to have an individual for myself. I'll do it all by myself, and I want that. So we will have these different iterations. We'll have the different themes, and we'll also have the ability for folks who want to access this medicine, this healing, in ways that suit them. Again, it all comes back to trying to make them as comfortable as possible so they can get the full benefit of the medicine. So, obviously people associate Bob Marley with ganja. He's spoken of, he's sang about, he's been, a cultural icon around cannabis use, and an advocate, if you will, for many, many years. And, a lot of folks ask me, like, what does that have to do with mushrooms? What's Bob Marley or the Marley estate have to do with mushrooms? And, in this process, I really came to understand and appreciate that Bob Marley spoke for, oneness. He spoke for connectivity. He spoke for, a sort of a common vibration, if you will. And that's what mushrooms represent. They represent, as I said, we share 50% of our DNA with mushrooms as humans. And when you understand through movies like Fantastic Fungi and the like, the role mushrooms play as far as, regeneration in our whole Earth's ecosystem, and taking, dead felled trees and making them, come back into like productive dirt for the earth that other things can grow from. When you really understand the breadth of what mushrooms do for us, then it makes abundant sense that we will be talking about something that has a natural, organic, global, and this sort of very deep, networked, if you will, connectivity that brings us all together. And that's what mushrooms represent. They allow us to now access a medicine, if you will, that can serve us in different health benefits, that the human body is helping to heal itself through the use of naturally cultivated fungi and species and plants. And it's very much along that continuum that we feel that there's incredible, sort of relevance to what Bob Marley and the Marley brand and estate, if you will, represent as far as natural healing. And that's really what we're advocates for. Natural healing of the body through functional mushrooms, natural healing of the mind through psilocybin. Like I say, this is the part that really is so fulfilling. You get people who speak about, we had someone just recently, and she was on tons of anxiety medications. She, anytime you spoke to her, she was going straight to what was going wrong and what the problem was going to be, and a real lack of control in the sense of seeing the opportunities and the upsides. And going through her psychedelic journey, even prior to, she had apprehensions and concerns and fears. And the team worked to calm her down and really explain it to her and get her to a place of comfort. And then what's been so fulfilling is post that, and you talk to her, she can navigate the vagaries of life and the challenges of business in a totally different way. It's not this knee jerk that it's all going to fall apart and it's, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and it's like, this has happened. I know it's going to work itself out, but it's a little bit of pressure right now. And because I know her personally and I knew where she was before, and then when the opportunity presented, I was like, you should really consider coming on one of our retreats, and here's what you could get out of it. And she took me up on it, and just to see the sea change in how she's living her life, for me is so rewarding. But it's also, again, in line with what we know this medicine can do for people. So that's really what we try to push on, is really getting people who are in that space where they know there's more for them. They want to self-actualize. They want to be that version of themselves that they keep worrying about what circumstances or other people might be judging or considering. And they know that person is in there. And this is one of those things that once that person is ready to sort of say, I want to be that better version of myself, I'm ready to see that person come to light, then that's when I recommend strongly that they consider a psychedelic retreat, and a retreat as opposed to a psychedelic experience. You can have a psychedelic experience right here in a living room or a friend's house, apartment, whatever, you can, but it's totally different. The idea of conditioning your mind, the idea of taking the steps to think through, to really be deliberate about booking a flight and coming to Jamaica and really putting yourself in that mindset that says, I'm going to do this for me because I want to get myself to a different space, a different place of operating, thinking, being. It lends itself a lot to that person being able to stand in that uncomfortable arena when they have to let go. They have to let the medicine go. And they sometimes want to fight it to sort of say, I want to stay in control of this experience that I'm having. And once they do that, then that's where the magic happens, so to speak. And that's where they really get to get the benefit of it. My thing is just education. There's so many people could benefit from psilocybin in particular. There's so many people can benefit from understanding functional mushrooms. And while as a business we work to do it better or as good as anyone else in the space, it's more important to me that people educate themselves and people get exposure and people find those retreats that make them feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, when you're able to heal yourself in that way, you live a better life and you can help more people. And in helping more people, debunk some of the myths and the fears that they have around psychedelics. That's a wonderful thing because, again, you're allowing people a pathway to greater healing. So, yeah, that's really one of the things I think it's important for people to understand. This is a very, very early stage in this business, in this industry, I should say. The fact that it's now legal in some markets, it's being decriminalized in other markets. I think you'll see a pathway to legalization for particularly microdosing, much shorter than cannabis is taken. But the thing that we all have to do as human beings is educate ourselves. For so long, I get people all the time say, oh, mushrooms, that's gonna make me go whatever. And it's a function of, where did you get that from? You know what I mean? We've heard stories, we've seen movies, and we just stuck there. And at the same token, we're buying into pharmaceutical solutions for family members sometimes, for ourselves sometimes, that are not healing us. We know, we read, are hurting us. And that's not to say all pharmaceuticals are bad. That's not my mission at all, because they're not. It's not a fact. But what I'm saying is that the more we open our own minds up and the more we educate ourselves, is the faster we get away from, bogus stories, silly narratives that people have perpetuated for their own usage, and get ourselves to where we can educate ourselves and heal ourselves. And that's really what I think is so important about what mushrooms do, and where psychedelics are in general, not just psilocybin. They offer us as human beings a window of opportunity to healing ourselves and living more fulfilled lives. And it would be an absolute sin for us to rest on false narratives that have been fed down for many, many years, because we've seen this across so many different topics. And we now have the opportunity, with access to information, to educate ourselves. And I really, truly, genuinely encourage people to do that, because the space between living a challenging, conflicted life and living one where you feel happier, where you feel more in touch with who you are, you feel more fulfilled, it really isn't that far. And some people who sit over here, they feel lost. And I'm saying to you that if you go and you educate yourself, you quickly find how quickly you can be found. Not to be corny again, but that's the power of mushrooms. You can learn about our products, our functional mushroom products, on our website. It's marleyone.com. Our retreats are at marleyone.retreats.com. And then, our social handles are Marley One Mushrooms on Instagram, same on Facebook.